Okay, this Ask Energy question comes from Angela, and Angela has the question of this. How or what is the best way to lose weight? So, how do I lose weight or what's the best way? Obviously, this is a Pandora's box, right? We understand that. And without more information, Angela, I'm going to generalize a few things. So, the first thing I'm going to generalize is hopefully you are not in a high training phase or a high training load where you're really trying to improve performance. So, whenever you do engage in weight loss, I highly recommend being either like in an off season or a maintenance phase or the beginning of a pre-season or a base training cycle. That is ideal because we're going to have to manipulate your macronutrients a little bit. And with that comes usually having a little bit less carbohydrates. So that may, not always, but may affect your energy level. So with all that said, I'll make that generalization that we're in off-season, maintenance phase, out season, preseason, somewhere around there, right? It's not traditionally in your season or in important training. Okay, so here's the thing with weight loss. There are so many rules of thought, right? And thought is the key word. There is some research, and look, listen, research is great in population-based, but sometimes it doesn't work in N of one, right? We understand that. So obviously, everything I say needs to be put in the context of N of one. What will work for you in your lifestyle with your stressors, your family situation, your social situation, career, everything, right? Okay. So that said, when I approach weight loss with individuals, the first thing that I do, and this has actually changed in the last few years because I have seen how important, and I'll just even go out there and say necessary it is to have basic or base foundation hormone testing. So what hormones am I talking about? Well, you can do a myriad of hormone tests, obviously, but basic ones like insulin, fasting glucose, which is not a hormone, but hemoglobin A1C to give you the 3-month average of glucose, in addition to estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and free testosterone and a full panel of thyroid hormones and vitamin D, which is actually a pro-hormone. So I would highly recommend getting those hormones first, because here's what I've been noticing over the past few years is I help individuals lose weight, but there's a sticking point somewhere, and either they're not successful in the beginning or they're getting to a point where they plateau, and we just can't kind of get over that plateau. And I found that having hormone testing can actually accelerate this process because it's so important to understand what's happening inside your body, right? In fact, I recently worked with an individual with a female who, after we got hormone testing, we kind of realized that that was the factor that was holding her body back from being successful in weight loss. Referred her to a physician. Her physician actually recommended, because we saw some thyroid imbalances, which pointed to hypothyroidism, which obviously can affect metabolic rate. So the physician saw this, she saw the data, and actually recommended that this individual go on thyroid medication. So oftentimes, you can do everything you can underneath the sun when it comes to nutrition and exercise, and even accountability, having someone in your corner, a dietitian or friend or whomever. But sometimes you cannot get over the hump of your hormones. So have hormone testing, number one. Okay, now let's get into the nutrition part. So obviously there are a lot of strategies here, and you can follow a diet. I don't recommend it, but you can follow one and be unsuccessful long term. Initially, a lot of times people actually have success, but I'm going to stray away from the diet word. So what I like to do, as you probably understand, because you've been listening to me for a while, hopefully, I like to put things into perspective when it comes to nutrition in terms of the carbohydrate to protein ratio. So looking at carbohydrates relative to the amount of carbohydrates relative to the amount of protein, and you can form a ratio together, right? So I describe this as my hand model. So you literally use your hand as an example of the volume of carbohydrate and volume of protein that you eat. By the way, where's fat? Fat is actually in the protein-rich foods as long as you are an omnivore. As long as you're eating animal proteins, you will likely get enough fat. If you're not an omnivore, I'm not going to go down that road right now. So if you're a vegan or vegetarian, we actually have to add some fat in, but that's a different Ask Energy. Okay, so back to the carbohydrate to protein ratio, or you can also use the hand model, which it's the same thing. Okay, so here's what we know. And actually, you can learn more about this. And if you don't know, my third edition of my book is out. Get it on Amazon, get it on the eNRG Performance website. I go into great detail on how to use the hand model, but let me explain this in reference to weight loss. I actually recommend a one hand to one hand carbohydrate to protein ratio for weight loss. That is why I actually said initially you need to do this early in a season or during an out season or off season, because when you follow a 1-to-1 ratio carb to protein, you actually end up not eating as much food. Shocker, right? Weight loss, need to manipulate the balance, calories in, calories out. It's not all about that, but that still is a little bit important, right? So that said, we need to manipulate that a little bit. But when you follow a 1-to-1 carb to protein ratio, you will end up eating less because the goal of the 1-to-1 ratio is actually to increase protein enough and fat to make you feel more satiated. Okay. So that's the trick here. So that's one trick is, well, one key factor. It's not a trick. I'm going to actually teach you some tricks here now. The key factor is using a carbohydrate to protein ratio of 1-to-1, using your hands as an example. One handful of carb, one handful of protein. Now, here's the thing. Carbohydrates matter, okay? In a weight loss model, here are my tips now. Here are my little secrets. When you eat carbohydrates and you're trying to lose weight, you need to prioritize the different types of carbohydrate. So the top carbohydrate that you will consume are non-starchy vegetables. So think spinach, arugula, cauliflower, broccoli, asparagus, mushrooms, onions, the list goes on, right? Not starchy vegetables. So starchy vegetables are things like potatoes and peas and corn, okay? So what we want to do in a weight loss model is find that handful of protein, which should be fairly easy, again, if you're an omnivore and you eat animal proteins, but then the hand of carbohydrate should be prioritized. First and foremost, like I said, non-starchy carbohydrates. Secondly is lower carbohydrate fruits. Berries are amazing. Berries are lower carbohydrate, thus lower calorie fruits. So you're still feeding the body carbohydrates, but we want to shift the balance to where there's less carbohydrates, right? But we also want to maximize the fiber intake. So these carbohydrates, these non-starchy veggies and the lower carbohydrate fruits will still have ample amount of fiber. Fiber is necessary also to keep you fuller longer and to help things move throughout the body. Okay, so that's the key. And then the last one, obviously, if you're going to prioritize carbohydrates in non-starchy vegetables, lower carbohydrate fruits, then the last one is you kind of lump the starchy vegetables and all other fruits together. But you want to prioritize, right? You want to maximize, I would say 90% of your carbohydrates are going to come from the non-starchy veggies and the lower carbohydrate fruits. Okay, so that's trick or secret number one. Secret number two is when you get up in the morning, have 40, let me give you a range, have between 35 and 40 grams of protein, okay? That is so crucial in a weight loss goal. Why? Because you want to start your day off correctly. Well, what if I fast? What if I intermittent fast? What if I do this? What if I do that? Listen, I get it, but you have to prioritize your goals, right? What are your goals? Are your goals to lose weight? Because here's the thing. In weight loss, we want to what is called front load your calories. So we want more of your calories that you're consuming throughout the day to come into your body in the first 2/3 of the day. So that is where your kind of eating windows are a little more important. And then in the last third of the day, you're going to ease or decrease the volume of food that you eat. You're still going to use the ratio 1-to-1, but the volume of food is different. And that is why it is so important to start your morning with an ample amount of protein along with your carbohydrates, right? If we're using that 1-to-1 example, and if I'm just throwing out grams as an example, right? So 35 to 40 grams of protein means you will eat 35 to 40 grams of carbohydrate. Hopefully something like your non-starchy vegetables. So things like eggs, like an egg scramble would be amazing. Whole bunch of veggies with some scrambled eggs, amazing. Call it good, right? Put some spices, turmeric, black pepper, salt. Perfect. Okay, so that's the next thing. Start your morning off with ample protein. The third thing, which I kind of alluded to, is you want to front load your day with calories. Make more of your calories in the morning and afternoon and a lot less for dinner. Okay. I understand Schedules are way different. Sometimes it's difficult. I totally get that. But do your best, right? That is a secret weapon in terms of weight loss. Front load, don't back load. Okay, tip number 4, drink enough fluids, right? Water, 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 water. And I mean, any type of water, seltzer water, plain water. You can drink teas, you can drink all these different things. You can drink coffee, absolutely, right? But just remember, you need at least in weight loss, this is my recommendation, between 4 to 5 liters of fluid per day. Now, that may be a lot more than you're used to. Maybe not, which would be great. But that is another secret or another trick to weight loss because you need, number one, you need to stay hydrated. But number 2, you need to make sure that your body, your stomach has some volume in it, thus from the fluid intake, to kind of trick the brain sometimes that it's full. It's not about voiding calories. It's about being smart in between meals, right? So if you're putting this 1-to-1 ratio together correctly, you should only eat about every 3.5 to 4 hours. Like that's how full you should be in a proper weight loss periodization phase where you're using one hand of carbs and one hand of protein. So think about that too. That is your ideal eating window is about every 3.5, 4 hours, probably more like 4 hours. If you're hungry in less than 4 hours, and you're not in a heavy training cycle like we talked about earlier, it's probably because you're not getting enough protein and or fat. So you might need to actually increase your protein slightly so you can last at least 4 hours in between meals. Okay. All right. So tip number 5, are we in 5 now? Okay. After dinner, no calories at all. Nada. Okay. You can drink tea, non-caffeinated tea with nothing in it. You can drink water, lemon water, seltzer water, whatever, but no calories after dinner. But you might be saying, wait a second, I eat dinner at 5 o'clock and I go to bed at 10 o'clock. I get it, right? If you can navigate your dinner time to be within 3 or 4 hours of bedtime, then you will not get hungry in between that time. Okay. Now, so you can manipulate that, or you can just play the trick. There's a lot of tricks, actually. You can, after dinner, you can brush your teeth. That's one way to try to prevent eating more. But another way is honestly just to stay hydrated after dinner. Oftentimes, sometimes, or not often, sometimes when we're hungry, we're actually just dehydrated. Okay. So in this model, what I'm talking about is probably eating 3 times a day, but let's just add a bonus snack in there just in case you're hungry. Okay. If like in an ideal world, when we're front loading your calories, your energy, I would love your program to be a breakfast, a snack, a lunch, and a dinner. But it's okay to move your snack from a early day to a later day. That's totally fine. But remember, for the snack, you're still going to do kind of focus on that protein, that 1-to-1 ratio, but the snack is going to be less volume of food. Okay, so this could be something like, let's see, berries and plain Greek yogurt, something like that, right? I mean, that's something easy. Maybe some cheese and some berry, like some raspberries or some blackberries with some cheese or something like that. I mean, sky's the limit when it comes to this. Even nuts. Nuts are fantastic. Most nuts are actually a 1-to-1 ratio all by themselves. So you can even have like a palm full of nuts as a snack. Totally. If you don't need a snack, don't force yourself, right? But remember, it's all about the protein. Okay. The last thing I want to share, tip number 6, I think is what we're on, is whenever possible, and actually you should just plan this into your plan, your daily plan. After you eat, walk for at least 10 to 15 minutes. And this could be around your house. It could be up and down stairs. It could be around your office, just doing some circles. Could be outside, like whatever. Whenever you walk after a meal, not only does it help by moving you, getting a little bit of movement, but it also helps reduce blood sugar and kind of control it and bring it down from the meal that you just had. Now, your blood sugar should not be high when you follow a 1-to-1 ratio of carb to protein, but just in case, that short little walk, which is great for your brain, great for your body, it's also great for weight loss. So if you can try to put in at least a 10 or 15-minute walk after every meal, that would be phenomenal. Listen, I know it's probably impossible for every single time, so maybe you just start with once or twice a day. Okay, that would be phenomenal. Okay, so Angela, I've kind of gone off on this a little bit, but there are some tips for weight loss. Again, everybody is different when it comes to how they respond to different maneuvers and strategies for weight loss. But remember again, step one, please have your hormones tested. I mean, that is such a stickler, especially if you're over 40, 45 years old. Things start happening with hormones. So it's really good to know what's going on with your hormones before you implement a daily nutrition plan. Okay, hope that helps. Thank you, Angela, for the great question. We'll see you on the next Ask eNRG.